Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Bullony Basketball. Just me on this episode. I know it's been a while since it's been just me in the spotlight, but I usually just do the episode alone if it's like a playoff prediction or something like that. So, yeah, I know I had to get this episode out early, so it's probably not going to be too, long of an episode. And technically, some of the games will be done before, before the actual playoffs or after the actual playoffs start, I should say. So there might be a couple games that go on before, but hey, we're trying out here. We're trying to do everything. It's a very quick turnaround. This is why I was saying the other day. I feel like they should have like a day off between the last playing game and the playoffs. So it is what it is. But I'm also going to go over some award predictions at the end of the season and everything like that. So, just the main 7 awards. And I'm just going to have them like all on the screen at once. I'll kind of rattle through them, and then I'll maybe talk a little bit about any of them that are super important. So we'll start with the main awards. And so I'm just going to have them on the screen probably right about now. And so you'll be able to see that MVP for me, Nikola Jokic, Defensive Player of the Year, Evan Mobley, Rookie of the Year, Stefan Castle. The most improved player was a tough one, but I picked Christian Brown. And then we got, trying to look through here, Sixth Man of the Year, I picked Peyton Pritchard. Clutch Player of the Year, I picked Darius Garland. And then Coach of the Year, I picked Kenny Atkinson. So, yeah. I think, honestly, though, like, I'm not 100% sure what my predictions were at the beginning of the year. I'd have to double check. But I might have given Kenny Atkinson flowers for Coach of the Year because I did have the Cavs being a solid team. I know I actually had Donovan Mitchell as Clutch Player of the Year, though. And it turned out to be Darius Garland. But I think even Donovan Mitchell had a good case. If Darius Garland didn't have such a great year in the clutch, he probably would be one of the top candidates. Their teammate Mobley, like, he's also had a very good year. I think he's warranted some Defensive Player of the Year candidacy. I think, Rookie of the Year, it seems like Stefan Castle just kind of had it in the bag for a while. I know Zachary Reissager kind of made a good run near the end. I know Jalen Wells actually had a good year, and then he got hurt like at the very end. So those guys should make first team all rookie. I would actually be surprised if they didn't. So there's that. And then just kind of looking through the other ones. Let's see. Most improved, it was a really tough one, honestly, because I think you could make an argument for Dyson Daniels. I know Norman Powell for a while up there. Actually, Norman Powell for a while seemed like the front runner, like for sure. Then he missed the game qualification thing, and then seems like Zubac, his teammate, has gotten a lot more praise for it. So he's gotten a lot more recognition with that award. So, I got to give him credit there. I think also for Coach of the Year, I think Udoka has a good case for it for the Rockets. I also think, the way the Pistons have played, I'm sure JB Bickerstaff will probably end up in the top 3 in voting. He'll probably be a finalist. So, yeah. And then MVP. MVP, I know it's really between Jokic and Shea, it seems like this year. If you were to ask me, I would take Jokic as my MVP. If I'm making a prediction on what will probably happen, I'm sure Shea will probably win it. But I think that Jokic has really played like the MVP this year. It seems like he just has to put so much on his shoulders night in and night out. And it's just like insane. You know what I mean? Like, he's having one of the most efficient offensive seasons ever. Yeah, maybe he's not the defender that Shea is, but the fact that he's up there as one of the league leaders in steals per game, and he really has good hands on defense as well. Like, I don't think you can consider him a bad defender. People say he's like the worst rim protector in the league and stuff like that. I wouldn't necessarily say that because rim protection also like includes guarding a pick and roll and stuff like that. Especially the pick and roll when players like come off the screen, they get their guy on their backside and they're kind of holding them off. So it's like you're really gonna have to make a hard decision if you're the big. And I feel Jokic is like really good in those situations. That's a part of rim protection too. So people don't want to count that, I guess. But yeah, I think the only other one I did not talk about is the sixth man of the year, which was also another tough one. Um, you know, it's or actually, did I even say my choice on there for sixth man of the year? I don't think I did. My choice for sixth man of the year, I picked Peyton Pritchard for my sixth man of the year. I think guys like Ty Jerome have had a great year. Malik Beasley's had a great year. Actually, I think for a while I would have picked Ty Jerome, but I think that he got to a point where he kind of like fizzled out a little bit. He would have some big time games, especially when guys were out. And I think part of that too could be used against Peyton Pritchard, where it's like, he would play well even when the stars are there, but maybe he had his best games when he was starting. But I don't know. I just think that, the way that Pritchard plays, like there's even nights when they're all playing together and he might be the best player on the court. And Ty Jerome has had maybe a couple of those, but I feel like it's a little bit less often that you see that. Maybe he's had about 2 or 3 games like that this year where he's been the best player on the court and everybody's played. Whereas Peyton Pritchard, I feel like you could argue that he's had about like 7 or 8 of those games where their main guys have played and he's really been the best player. I think honestly, this season in particular, you could argue he's been better than Drew Holiday. I know Drew Holiday is a, better player that you want in the playoffs. He's probably going to be he's definitely a better defender and everything like that. But I think just for the sake of this season, you could argue that Peyton Pritchard has been better. To a degree, I mean, you could even say that with Derek White too. I think that there is an argument to be made. He's been their third best player. Whereas a lot of these other guys like DeAndre Hunter, Ty Jerome, Malik Beasley, just trying to rattle through some of them. Those guys though are probably more so their 5th or 6th best player on the team. And not only that, but Boston is also one of the best teams in the NBA. So to have that impact on a team that's winning that much, I think that you can't overlook that at all. So Peyton Pritchard would get my vote for sixth man of the year. With that being said, let's advance here to the postseason, the playoffs, and we'll make some predictions and see how it goes. Starting with, should we start with the West? Yeah, we'll start with the West. So the 1 seed Thunder going against the 8 seeded Grizzlies, who won the last playing game. Give me Thunder in 4, unfortunately. I do think this will be a sweep. They've won all 4 games against them in the regular season. The Thunder did over the Grizzlies, and they won by an average margin of 20 points a game. Now, obviously, you got to factor in which games that Ja did play, didn't play. You could make the same argument with really a lot of the Grizzlies players. How much was Zach Edey playing at that time? Although, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing in this matchup? So, I just don't really think the Grizzlies match up well with them. Now, I will say I think the point differential, just because it's the playoffs and the Grizzlies are going to have to bring out their A game, it will be less than what it was in the regular season. Doesn't say much, I guess, and that's probably not a hard feat to accomplish. But I do think that maybe some of the games will be a little closer. They'll probably lose on average by about 11, 12 points a game. But I'm still going to take Memphis to win this. Or what am I saying? I'm still going to take OKC to win this. I'm going to take Memphis to win a trip to the Bahamas or something like that. Okay, so then we got the next one. We got the 4-5 matchup in the Western Conference. We got the Nuggets hosting the Clippers. I'm actually going to take the Clippers on this. I think that they've played a lot better to end the year than the Nuggets. I mean, they won like their last 8 games. I think they ended the year like 19-3 in their last 22 games. Like Kawhi is healthy. He's playing like the Kawhi we know in the playoffs, and James Harden's playing really good too. The thing that makes them even scarier, I think, is their defense is like a super elite defense. This is why I did not mention Tyronn Lue for my Coach of the Year thing, because yes, they've overachieved in terms of expectations, but I don't think that's because of him. I would say that's more so because of the coaching staff around him, especially like Jeff Van Gundy. Like, he's really helped them like improve on the defensive end and bring back like the grit that maybe his Knicks teams had in the 90s. So I'm going to go with the Clippers on this. I think they're going to win it in 6. And maybe it could be 7, but every win that they get is pretty much just going to be on Jokic's shoulders. I think that it's pretty clear that the Clippers have 2 of the top 3 players, maybe 3 of the top 4 players in this series, depending on what Jamal Murray you get. Like, if Jamal Murray's not even playing like close to Jamal Murray, it's going to look bad pretty quick. With that being said, though, I think that the Clippers will take this. I also think that, the Nuggets are in a weird place. They just fired their coach. Looks like the Westbrook experiment coming off the bench is not going too well lately, and especially for the playoffs, like especially for a team that had him last year, like to go against him. Like, I don't think that the Clippers will manage to lose that. I think that the Clippers will come out on top and they'll win in 6. Now we get the 3 seed Lakers and the 6 seed Timberwolves. I'm not a huge fan of this matchup, really. I think that between the Lakers and the Timberwolves, it's just going to be the same thing about last year, where Luka's going to seek out Gobert. And not only that, but the Timberwolves last year, I think, had more size that really intimidated a lot of teams. They made it hard on Denver, and that's a big reason why everyone was so surprised that they beat them, because their defense was so elite. Their defense has really not been as elite this year, and offensively they've taken a hit too, because you lose a guy like Karl Anthony Towns in the offseason because you traded him for Julius Randle. I feel like Ant is clearly going to have to average 40 to even have a chance. I'll say at least 35 to have a chance. And I think he could do that. I don't even think it would be enough for the chance, though, because you got to factor in like Mike Conley's older. What Julius Randle are we going to get in the playoffs? It's usually not a very good one. Rudy Gobert, he's always been targeted in the postseason, sometimes played off the court. McDaniels, like, he has, a tendency to, when things go wrong, he starts throwing a fit, gets technical fouls, could get ejected, So if I'm Chris Finch, I think that, Anthony Edwards is definitely going to have to be the focal point. They're going to double team him a lot, but I think guys that need to play a lot in this series would be Naz Reid and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Honestly, I would argue more than the starters, more than Conley, more than Julius Randle. If they do that, I think that their chances are better. I don't trust Chris Finch to do that, though, and I think if he does do that, it might be a little too late. With that being said, I feel like the Lakers will easily exploit Gobert. So with that being said, as I've said like 3 times already, I'm taking the Lakers to win this in 5 games. I think the Timberwolves will only get 1. I think that they're not going to win any in LA. The Lakers have been good at home. They've been a little suspicious on the road. But I think the Timberwolves will win Game 3. That Game 4 will really decide the series, essentially. Then we get the 2-seeded Rockets and the 7-seeded Warriors. So this is a good matchup, too, because the Rockets have an insane defense. The Warriors have a good defense, but I think that the Timberwolves will win Game 3. Then we get the 2-seeded Rockets and the 7-seeded Warriors. So this is a good matchup, too, because the Rockets have an insane defense. The Warriors have a good defense, but I think that the Timberwolves will win Game 3. Then we get the 2-seeded Rockets and the 7-seeded Warriors. So this is a good matchup, too, because the Rockets have an insane defense. They're a very young team as well. They don't have a whole lot of experience aside from like Fred VanVleet and Steven Adams, who probably won't play a lot. And I guess Jeff Green too, but he also won't play a lot. Um, whereas the Warriors have a lot more experience, but I don't think they have quite the talent and the depth that Houston does. Now Houston doesn't really have the shooters that the Warriors do. Um, like even just with Curry's presence alone, like probably is more impressive like all around shooting than the Warrior or the Rockets main core. And then not only that, but it's like you add in a guy like Buddy Hield as well. Podziemski can hit the three. Quentin Post has been playing center for them. Like he's been able to hit threes. So they have guys who can hit shots probably at a higher tendency than the Rockets. So they're really going to have to rely on their defense and transition. And I think they can, run the floor quicker, like than the Warriors, of course. I think that actually they will be able to make life challenging on Steph Curry, which is why I think it's going to be a factor of, is Jimmy Butler going to be able to like step up to enough of a degree? And that is really a big question mark because there are times where he's played like a great series when he needs to like elevate his game and there's an opportunity there. There's also been times where there's been an opportunity and he's not risen to the occasion. An example of each would be you could use back-to-back situations when they played the Bucks in the first round with Miami. The second time he did it, when he was on the 8th seed, they went all the way to the finals. He averaged like 35 points a game when Giannis was hurt, and he went crazy. Then time before that, 2 years before, like they had a chance to play the Bucks again, a team they just beat in the bubble the year before that too in the second round, and he gets outscored by Britton Forbes. So you really don't know what to expect. I think that I am going to actually take Houston in 7. I think it will be a good series, but I think I'm going to go with the Rockets. So we can move on to the East. 1 seed Cavs, 8 seed Heat. I don't think this will be too tough of a series for the Cavs. I think that there will be that one hiccup game, though. The Heat, they don't go out easy, of course, especially as a 10 seed to get to the playoffs. Like, they're the first ones to ever do it. So you know that they're not going to, like, just fold now. So with that being said, I think the Cavs will win this one in 5 games. And I could actually see the Heat winning, like, a game 2 instead of their home games. I think they could win one of those games in Cleveland and even the series and maybe like put a little pressure on them. But I think the Cavs will ultimately close it out. I think that they have just way more players in the front line. I think that, Donovan Mitchell is definitely the best player in this series. And I think realistically, the Cavs probably have 4 of the top 6 players in this series, maybe 6 of the top 8 or 9 players in this series, if you count Ty Jerome and DeAndre Hunter. But the Heat will play hard. And so that's why I'm going to give them at least a game. The Pacers and the Bucks, I am kind of torn on this one too because they played last year, but Giannis was not healthy. They had Dame that was healthy, and they had, who's now not on the team, but Chris Middleton was healthy. This time, Chris Middleton's off the team because he's in Washington. Dame is not fully healthy, although he could come back. And you have Giannis playing. Now, you would think that Giannis could elevate them a little bit more. But at the same time, I think the Pacers are a better team this year, too. So you really have to factor in is, like, can Giannis be enough of a superhuman to get them the win? And very much so, like the 4-5 in the West between the Clippers and the Nuggets, where it seems like Jokic is going to have to be a superhuman. I think the same thing is going to happen here with Giannis. And I don't think it's going to be enough. But I do think this one will go to 7 games, and I think the Pacers will ultimately pull it off. So give me Indiana. The Knicks and the Pistons. This is going to be an interesting series, too, because the Pistons have won 3 out of 4 games against them in the regular season. Now, I know that doesn't matter all too much. I know some people have missed games. I think the one game, like near the end of the season, was a critical one, though, because seeding was not determined yet at that point. So the fact that the Pistons won that game is, definitely a huge plus in their direction. I think that the Knicks have more experience, of course. I think that the Knicks probably have as much as JB Bickerstaff has been a decent coach this year, like Tom Thibodeau is a better coach than him, just in terms of defensive schemes and, just managing like his, players' mindsets and stuff. Rotations, yeah, maybe not so much. But it is the playoffs, so players are going to be playing a lot more. But I really don't know. Like, this is a coin flip of a series. It is definitely going to go to 7. But I'm gonna go with the Pistons. I think that the Pistons will manage to pull it off. There's been something just off about the Knicks this year. I don't know what it is. Like, they just have not really seemed like a 50-win team. The way that they're playing, they almost seem like a 44-win team. The way like they're perceived, you would think they would have been in the play-in this year. And they're still up there, but can they put it together in time for the playoffs? I don't know. Now, I know they're getting like some of their guys back in time. I know Brunson missed some time. I know Mitchell Robinson missed some time. But I don't know if it's really hard, especially in a season when guys are missing like so much time together, and then to bring them all together at once. You'd have to have like a really superstar level guy to make that happen. But even a guy like take Kawhi last year. Kawhi last year wasn't great in the playoffs because he really didn't have time to get his footing under him. So I think like you will see Jalen Brunson probably have a tough series in this one, just because of the defensive players that they could put on him, the Pistons. But it's just about who can step up too. Cat is going to have a big series. And then we got the Celtics and the Magic. I'm going with the Celtics, but I think it's going to be 6 games. And I'm almost tempted to say 7 because we don't know Jaylen Brown's status right now. It doesn't seem like he's fully 100%. Having said that, the Magic, yeah, they're the 7th seed, but if you remember earlier in the year, they were the 3rd seed for a while. And then their guys got hurt. So I think this is a tougher matchup than a lot of people think. And in a way, it could really, test the Celtics. I think it's a bigger test for them than any team they played last year, just because of all the injuries that they had to go through last year. And assuming the Magic stay healthy too. So I'll go Celtics, but I think it'll be a 6-game series, and it could even be a 7-game series. But I do think that they will win it. So now we got the West second round, starting with the 1-seed Thunder, 5-seed Clippers. I'm going to go with the Clippers in 6. This is a very, very intense series here for a lot of reasons. First of all, the Thunder have been the best team in the NBA all year long, a 68-win team. You would not expect them to lose in the second round. The Clippers have had their narratives against them, especially over the last year and a half, 2 years. The thing that separates it for me, though, is the best player in this series would be Kawhi. That's even counting Shea, even counting, Harden, Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams. It would be Kawhi. I think you also have to factor that this is a team that has some history with the Clippers. The whole reason that Kawhi is on the Clippers is because of the Thunder, because they were willing to trade Paul George to the Clippers for those picks. So I think that there is going to be a little bit of animosity in that regard. And I one thing that you should do, one thing that you should know by now is if Kawhi is playing, you should not bet against him. I'm going to take Kawhi and the Clippers to win this game. I think that they have the defense to match up with the Thunder too, slow them down. But not only that, but they have a little more experienced guys. Like, not just between Kawhi and James Harden, but like Norman Powell is an NBA champion. Zubac, he's been in the playoffs like year after year after year. Derek Jones Jr., he just went to the finals. Like, they have guys that have been at this level. I think that they're going to have a pretty good chance against the Thunder, and I'm going to take them to win in 6. Then we got the Lakers and the Rockets. This is also a tough series. I feel like honestly, like for the Lakers' sake, they got just about the best teams that they could match up with, um, in this side of the bracket, and I say that because they're playing a team that really has a weakness in the Timberwolves, and then they play a team like the Rockets who don't really have that experience. Even a team like the Warriors is a little smaller, so their lack of size doesn't matter as much. But I do have the Rockets at this point, and them Rockets Lakers going head to head. I'm probably gonna take the Lakers in 6 games. I think it's gonna go 6 games too. Um, and you have to think about it like this. I think that the main difference in this is the Rockets play a lot of defense. Of course, like that's their calling card. But I think that the Lakers, with them also being able to draw so many fouls, like they will get a lot of those calls. And that will probably determine the series. Like this is going to be a series you're going to look at and be like, yeah, this might be rigged. Just because of how many free throws the Lakers are getting. So I'm going to go with the Lakers over the Rockets in 6. In the East, again, we got the Cavs and Pacers. Give me the Cavs in 6. They played really well, actually, against the Pacers this year. And so I do think the Cavs will definitely get past them. Even though they lost some of those games to the Pacers, some of them were really at the end of the year, like with nobody playing. I think if Donovan Mitchell were playing and Darius Garland and, Mobley and stuff, like it would be different. But I think that the Cavs just have like the defense to match up with them. I think that they have a little bit more experience at this point than the Pacers. I know the Pacers made the conference finals last year, but I think that the Cavaliers have a little bit more experienced guys like on their team. So I don't think that there's going to be an edge there for Indiana, and I just think that the Cavs have been a better team all year long. So I'm going to go with Cleveland here in 6 games. Then we got the Celtics-Pistons. It's going to be a tough series again for the Celtics, but I think it's going to be them in 6. The Pistons play aggressive defense. They got guys who can shoot the ball well, and they've beaten the Celtics in this year too. So it's not like it's insurmountable or something like that. I think that they can get the job done. But I think at this point, you would think Jaylen Brown will probably be more toward 100%. So I'm going to go with the Celtics in 6 games. So now we got a Final Four that includes the Lakers, the Clippers, the Cavs, the Celtics. So between the Lakers and the Clippers, the Battle of LA. If this is what we get in this time of the playoffs, I think it would be pretty crazy. After all these years, finally the Battle of LA between the Lakers and the Clippers. The Lakers would have home court advantage, probably be the favorite in this series. But I'm not going to pick them. I'm picking the Clippers to win this. They've been a lot better down the stretch of the season. The Lakers have been like 10-10, like kind of fighting 500 and stuff. The Clippers have really shown they're playoff ready if they stay healthy. And I know a lot of people say like playoff LeBron and stuff is something different, but the one thing that he has not been a fan of in the playoffs is Kawhi. And I'm going to bring up Kawhi again because I think that this could be a run that we see from him that's very reminiscent to the Raptors one if he's healthy. You always had that inkling that could happen over the last couple of years, but I think that with the way he's moving right now is probably the most optimism that could happen since probably 2021 when he did get hurt again. I think James Harden, like just the same way that Luka has played and stuff, they play very similar to each other. Actually, I think weirdly enough, James Harden might be in better shape. And that might be the only person he could have that edge on. But I just think that they have more size too. I think Zubac will have a big time series. I don't think Jackson Hayes is going to stop him. And then just the coaching advantage, JJ Redick has done a good job in his first year, but I think that the Clippers, not even like Ty Lue, I'm not even going to bring up Ty Lue again. They just have so many coaches on their bench that could really step up to the plate, and not just Jeff Van Gundy, but also like Brian Shaw and stuff. And they just have a great coaching staff. The Lakers have a lot of experienced coaches too, but some of them are kind of like whatever, like Scott Brooks and Nate McMillan and stuff. It's like, yeah, they were in the league and like they coached some teams, but what like success did they have as a coach? Not like a whole lot. So I'm gonna go with the Clippers. In It would be crazy if it was a 7-game series, but I do think that they'll win it in 6. It's actually really weird. Like a lot of experienced teams being the lower seed helps in their favor, because if they can take care of home court advantage and just win one of those first 2 games on the road, which I do think the Clippers will do, then they're probably going to take it home. So give me the Clippers in 6. The Cavs and the Celtics, I'm going with the Cavs in 6. I do think that they will win this. They've played pretty even this year, both those teams, 2-2. Seems like the Cavs have had maybe more injuries against them when they have played. But I also think that they are going to be more than ready to play. You got to remember last year how, yeah, they lost in 5 games, but a lot of those games were close, and they did play half the games without Donovan Mitchell, all the games without Jared Allen. Like, that could be a factor that could sway the series. And that was with their last head coach, which clearly wasn't a good fit for them. I'm going to go with the Cavs winning this in 6 games. I think they'll win the last game at Boston. I think that, it's hard to win in Boston, I would say. But the Celtics haven't been as good of a home team this year, and the Cavs have shown that they could win there. They don't fear their crowd. Even when they were down that one game, it was like, 25-3 or something, and they came back and won that game. So give me the Cavs. And so we're going to have an NBA Finals of the Cavs and the Clippers. This would be literally insane if this happened. The Cavaliers have had a really great season, winning 64 games. Their best season, like not including LeBron. And then the Clippers, like getting this far, they have never gotten this far before. So it is going to be a tough decision for me. I think this series would go to 7 games. And I'm going to say that the winner will be the Clippers, if they're healthy. And I can only base it off if they're healthy, of course, but I'm going to go with the Clippers. I just think that, the one thing that the Cavs have, and they've gotten better with it, they've added some wing depth to guard players like a Tatum, like if they match up in the second round, like a Siakam or something, maybe a Tyler Hero and those sort of things in their prior matchups. But there's no Kawhi stopper. Like, there is none. I also think that James Harden, if he gets back to the finals, I think you're going to see a different James Harden, especially than what you saw like with the Thunder. Like the Thunder, he wasn't really the player he was at this point. I would be interested to see how he performs on a finals stage, especially going against a team that doesn't have as much experience either at that stage. The Cavs have experience, but finals experience, not really. So you have guys that do have that, like Kawhi, like Norman Powell, like Derrick Jones Jr. There's just, key players that have made deep playoff run, like Nicholas Batum. He's been to the conference finals before. It just seems like they have the upper hand there, and I'm going to go with the Clippers, and I'm going to go with Kawhi Leonard as your finals MVP. This would be his 3rd one. Even without a championship this year, I think that Kawhi has already proved himself. Like, he has nothing left to prove in the NBA, and he is a first ballot Hall of Famer. But if he did manage to do this, with how many games that the guy has missed over the course of his career, like, you cannot say anything bad about him anymore. And I think, honestly, if it goes to 7 games, I don't think on the other side of things, you can't say anything bad about this Cavs team. To be 1 win away from winning the championship, and they maybe lose to a guy like Kawhi and James Harden, who are both going to be first ballot Hall of Famers too, and a great coaching staff. Like, I'll say that too. The Clippers have like the best well-rounded coaching staff, including all their coaches, probably in the league. the Cavs, like Kenny Atkinson's been great, and they got some solid assistants, but I don't think it compares. So I'm going to go with the Clippers to win the championship, and those are my predictions for the NBA playoffs, I guess. Leave a like if you enjoyed. If you did, too, be sure to comment, subscribe, all that jazz. But yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. This episode will probably be out after game 1 of every series, so I only picked one sweep in the first round. So if the Grizzlies manage to win their first playoff game before this comes out, then I guess I suck already. That probably will happen now. But anyways, Grizzlies, do me a favor, lose game 1. If you win anything after that, it's okay. But anyways, again, hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, with that being said, stay tuned for the next one. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm out. Peace.